UFC 311 full card predictions and breakdown, and where I have put my money on this card in terms of bets, and that's where you need to put your money as well. First off, we have Clayton Carpenter versus the guy who looks like his mother could also be his sister. Let's be honest here, Tagir Ulanbekov is probably going to win this fight. He is the taller dude, ranger dude. He is fighting Clayton Carpenter, who's a smaller, stockier dude. Both of them have good grappling and wrestling overall, but I think the reach of Tagir is probably going to be able to take advantage here. Also, the fact that he's Dagestani. I know he might not be having a perfect record in this fight, but, you know, still gotta favor if you're from that region of the world. And the fact that I think Clayton Carpenter, for the most part, will have to be on the front foot if he wants to win this fight. He'll need to apply pressure onto Tagir. That's really what's going to come down to, pressure onto Tagir, but really a smaller, stockier guy applying pressure. I think Tagir has good enough wrestling to be able to stuff the takedowns. And overall, I just think he's better than Clayton Carpenter, in my opinion. He will win this fight. That is the first prediction of the card. As you can see, Tagir Ulanbekov is the pick. Next up, Benardo Sopaj versus Ricky Turcios. The thing with Ricky Turcios throughout his entire career, in my opinion, has been the fact that he hasn't really excelled anywhere. And in his last fight against Raul Rosas, we saw him get taken down and controlled for the most part in every single round. And that was after we saw that Raul Rosas had no striking game. And the fact that Ricky Turcios couldn't keep it on the feet is worrying, especially against Benardo Sopaj. Now, not to say Sopaj is some incredible prospect. I do believe he's coming off of a loss as well. But here with Ricky Turcios, like, unless he snatches up like a guillotine on like a bad shot, he probably isn't going to be winning this fight. Now, I can see the pathway for him to win, and that's on the feet, where I think he might be the better striker compared to Sopaj. But overall, from a skill set perspective, I've seen Ricky Turcios struggle enough times with the wrestling to the point where I'm not going to be picking him for this fight. I think Benardo Sopaj is the better fighter here. And maybe he's not even the better fighter. Maybe he's just good enough to beat Ricky Turcios. Because Ricky Turcios' skill set, if he can implement his game plan of just being average all the way around, he can win fights. Like, if he is somehow able to stuff the takedowns, and that's what he's really worked on in this entire training camp, he has a very good chance of winning this fight. But overall, I'm not going to be betting on that. So the pick is going to be Benardo Sopaj. Next up, Rinya Nakamura versus Muin Gafurov. Now, we're looking at Rinya Nakamura here. Rinya Nakamura is a really elite level wrestler, in my opinion. I think of the two, he is probably the better. He's probably the better wrestler, considering that Gafurov has also got wrestling ability in himself. I was actually... Listen, right? I know it's ridiculous to suggest that Rinya Nakamura could lose this fight. I mean, he's fighting a guy called Muin Gafurov. He's got the dad bod. He's got the dad hair on his chest. Like, I mean, the guy doesn't look like much of a fighter. He's like more of a fluffy bear. But again, I was thinking maybe Rinya Nakamura will get fraud checked down the line, but not here. I do think his wrestling will be enough to, you know, ground Muin Gafurov. But the thing with Muin Gafurov is, I do think, from what I've seen, I think he has some decent leg kicks here and there. And I think on the feet, he isn't too bad. So, like, the threat with these prospects is always the chance that they'll eventually get clipped by a precise enough striker. I don't think that's Muin Gafurov. But I think people are slightly overhyping Rinya Nakamura. I think he's been great so far. I think he looks fantastic. Looks like he's going to be a future title contender. Looks like he's going to be fighting for the belt in his near future. I just think we need to see some a little bit more. And I don't think this is where I'm going to be betting against him to get fraud checked. I do think it could happen against someone who's like upper in the rankings, and Rinya just gained so much momentum that he's still a massive favorite. But is it going to happen against Muin Gafurov? Mr. Fluffy Chest, Big Belly, no abs? Probably not. And the pick is going to be Rinya Nakamura. Next up, Ailin Perez versus Karol Rosa. This is a tough one. Listen, wasn't Ailin Perez the one that did the twerk? Like, she shook her booty. Her wrestling is what's going to get her here. Like, the wrestling of both of these ladies isn't too bad. But of the two, I think Ailin Perez does grind out her opponents more. She is more willing to go for takedowns one after the other, chain them together. While Karol Rosa is a pretty decently well-rounded fighter, I would say. Yeah, pretty decently powerful, but she's also bigger than the two. I will say this though, she is bigger than the two, and with some of these wrestling exchanges between different fighters we've seen where size is a factor, we usually see a lot of them be like, you know, going for a takedown, lose position just because of the size, and then fall over with the other person landing on top of them. That could happen in this fight, but I will be going with the pressure of Ailin Perez in this fight. I think Karol Rosa, I mean, again, it's a women's fight. There's not going to be any crazy knockout power, despite the fact that Karol Rosa does have the size here. This is my first bet of the night. I think the fact that Ailin Perez is an underdog is a good place to put money on this. I have gone with Ailin Perez, the underdog. $125. Put your money here. Now, if you don't have the money, steal your parents' credit card. Just kidding, don't do that. Most of my demographic is 25 anyway. Zachary Reese versus Azamat Bekoev. This was a tough one. Now, I've seen a lot of people basically say, oh, what, so you're expecting me to put my money on someone who's fighting someone else who's got a V at the end of the name? I won't lie to you, yes. Because Azamat Bekoev is from what, the LFA or something? Coming in not undefeated. He has lost to some people with some questionable, or actually he's beaten a lot of people with some questionable records. Like a lot of non-double digit win streaks. Not to say that Zachary Reese is on some massive win streak. But this fight is on short notice and I don't know too much about Azamat Bekoev. But that's why I'm going with Zachary Reese here. That's the breakdown, right? I don't know too much about Azamat Bekoev. And so I've gone with Zachary Reese and I've put money on it. But I only put a little bit of money on it. $50 because it is on short notice as well. And the guy had not the best record. And the guys that he was losing to was like just records like Zachary Reese. So unless I don't know something that everyone else knows, probably don't put your money here. You gotta remember I have a life. That means I can't just be watching fights all day. So I'm missing a basketball game right now to record this video, by the way. The sacrifices. Grant Dawson versus old man Diego Ferreira. Now, Grant Dawson's strengths are pretty evident. He's a really good wrestler. He can finish you on the ground by submissions, by this, that. Ground and pound control you most likely than not, then hold you down. Those are his pathways to win. He's good at those pathways. He has been chinned by Bobby Green though. Diego Ferreira, much like Bobby Green, has a puncher's chance against anyone that's on the feet. I mean, he does have power in his old man hands. And he fights off the back foot. So that, you know what that means? That means if he's shooting for a takedown, that gives him a good chance to slip back and counter Grant Dawson, much like Bobby Green did. But I will be going with the younger Grant Dawson. I do think old man Diego Ferreira is one too many years into the hole. I do think he's going to lose here. And we're seeing a shift in the UFC where the older fighters are just being passed on and pushed out of the UFC like they should be. I'm just kidding. I don't want anyone to lose their job. But once you start losing a lot of fights and ruining some Apex cards, it's probably time to hang it up. Like, once you're at the stage where you're like, what, Diego Ferreira? On the feature fight of an UFC Apex? Like, that's probably around the time you don't want to stick around too much longer after that time of round that I just said weirdly. For that reason, I'm going with Grant Dawson in here. I do think the wrestling will be too much for Diego Ferreira. I do think he won't be able to catch Grant Dawson with that massive power shot. I think that fight against Bobby Green doesn't go that way most times than not. I do think Grant Dawson is a little bit of a pussy when it's on the feet. But for the most part, I will be going with Grant Dawson. He's too much of a favorite for me to put money on him, but he is the pick. Next up, Bogdan Guskov versus Billy Elekana? Another one of those things where I'm just not too familiar with the guy taking the fight on short notice, but Bogdan Guskov has shown some decent jiu-jitsu on the ground. But what am I saying? But more than that, the power in his hands is very good. He has KO'd Superman. You know who I'm talking about. Superman. He has KO'd him. His name, like, I know who he is. Like, I obviously know who... Ryan Spann, there you go. He has KO'd him. He has finished him off on short notice. He did come to the UFC taking a loss to, far out. Why am I saying stuff that I don't know the answers to? Bogdan did come into the UFC and lost immediately to a person whose name is just about to pop into my mind. Who was it? Was it... I've got to look it up now. My brain just can't handle this. Bogdan. Because I remember it like it was yesterday. What? Did he? Yeah, it was Volkan Oezdemir. Didn't I say Volkan Oezdemir? I did say Volkan Oezdemir. Now he's fighting this dude. I think he's going to win just because he's the guy I know. And that was the entire breakdown. Me looking up who he lost to in his debut fight. It was Uzdemir, who's a good fighter. So unless, you know, I can't say. You know, I couldn't tell you. So I didn't put money on this either. I know these are the kind of breakdowns that you guys are tuning in for. And stay tuned for more breakdowns like this one right here. Bogdan versus Billy Elekana. The pick is Bogdan Guskov. Next up, we have Jailton Almeida versus big fat Sergey Spivak. Big fat Sergey Spivak, the big Polish bear with the Polish bear tattoo on his chest. Is that a cage behind it? That's crazy. Anyway, Jailton Almeida will obviously be the pick. The guy looks like he's made out of like chiseled stone, like marble. He is made out of rock hard steel. No abs in this picture, but I think he has abs on the day of the fight, or at least in terms of weigh-ins. Big dick Jailton Almeida. More words to say. I don't know. You know, like, it's just one of those things where it's like two grapplers fighting each other. Jailton Almeida clearly has the better grappling. The striking of Sergey Spivak and Jailton Almeida is nothing to write home about. It's usually just to set up their takedowns for the most part. Can Sergey Spivak realistically stuff enough takedowns to maybe, you know, get on top and then maybe just ground and pound, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, he's got a full mount, bah, 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 and he finishes Jailton Almeida? Yes. Is that going to happen? No. I think Jailton Almeida is too athletic, and athleticism is a big thing missing in the heavyweight division. I think someone that comes in with athleticism can probably dominate the division, which is what Jailton Almeida brings to the table. I think his grappling, his pressure is too much for someone like Sergey Spivak. I think he will take him down, and I think he will finish him off. All right. The pick is Jailton Almeida. Next up, Payton Talbot versus Raoni Barcelos. Another one of those factors where it's like, how old is Raoni Barcelos? I actually have no clue, but he looks like he's been through a lot in his life, you know? Drugs. Anyway, Payton Talbot. I like his striking. I like the distance management that he has, and I like the power in his hands. I think he can drop Raoni Barcelos pretty easily, to be honest. Raoni Barcelos, again, looks like one of the older fighters. He's coming towards the end, or like towards the end of his prime. Not saying he was ever like this top 5 level fighter in his entire life. No, he was not. But he is a good step up for Payton Talbot, and this is definitely a step up in my opinion. But it looks like it is just another feed him fight. Give Payton Talbot another win. And after this one, just give him someone in the top 15. I think Payton Talbot is ready for that. I think beating Raoni Barcelos, not the biggest of challenges, but he does have the great... I think Payton Talbot will easily destroy him, to be honest. I think Payton Talbot has the superstar potential that everyone thought Sean O'Malley did, even though time and time again, Sean O'Malley showed that he had no superstar, like actual personality or charisma of a superstar. He fights like a superstar, but when it comes to like actually being excited for Sean O'Malley fight, for the hype, not really present. Payton Talbot, I think, brings that. He has this cool, unspoken riz to him, in all honesty, and that's what's going to win this fight because of his unspoken riz. The pick is Payton Talbot. Next up, we have Reiner de Raider versus Kevin Holland. We're already up to the main card. This is crazy. The debut fight of Reiner de Raider was not exactly the most comforting fight ever. It was against Gerald Meerschaert, who was basically a stepping stone. That's where he is in his career, and Reiner de Raider lost a round to him. It was 1-1 going into the third round, and he barely squeaked out a win with a submission. The takedowns weren't takedowning in that fight. If anything, Kevin Holland is working on his wrestling. Is he? We always say this, but he never is. I can so easily see Kevin Holland chinning him. Reiner de Raider has some of the worst striking I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Not even close-fisted. This is his striking. Reiner de Raider, I hope he wins though, because I'm excited for him. I think he's a good, I was going to say prospect. He's fought an entire career in one championship, and he's quite accomplished. He's also 34, so not really a prospect level age. Fighting Kevin Holland, I hope Reiner de Raider wins, and I did put money on this. Listen, right? I'm picking Reiner de Raider to win here, and that's because Kevin Holland, just in like, what, September, broke his ribs. Might have faked it, but anyway, I am going to go with Reiner de Raider. I do think Kevin Holland is kind of, like, he has such a clean pathway to win. Like, on the feet, Reiner de Raider is absolute garbage. Kevin Holland can immediately chin him. Remember what happened to Michael Chiesa, where he went for a single leg, didn't let go, got bah, 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 my brain, I'm dead, is basically what he did. But here, I will be going with Reiner de Raider. I think he gets it done. I think he's I think the takedowns are there, and I think the fact that Kevin Holland's coming back so soon after the broken ribs, and the fact that he said he's going to fight 6 times this year. Come on, dude. You're not really training at that point. If you're training isn't just in the camp. Training is recovery. It's how you rest. It's how you get back and fight your next opponent. Is he really having long training camps? I think he might just be there for the money at this point. Maybe he has guaranteed money instead of half of his purse. I don't know the exact contract situation, but I am going to be going with Renegade Raider here. I think he takes down Kevin Holland, and I think there's a chance that he could submit him, but Holland has good jiu-jitsu. But every time we've seen Holland fight a high-level grappler and wrestler, gotten taken down, held there, and then just gave up. The pick will be Renegade Raider, $125 on him. Beneil Dariush versus Big Money Moicano. Beneil Dariush versus Big Money Moicano. The pick will be revealed in a second, but I will say this though. Moicano on a big win streak right now. He has been able to take down fighters like Jailton Turner, Drew Dober, and Benoit Saint Denis. Honestly, all 3 of them you can argue are actually pretty decent anti-wrestlers, especially someone like, well actually I don't know, Benoit Saint Denis has some good jiu-jitsu, I don't know if he's a good anti-wrestler, but Drew Dober, you know, for the most part, he's pretty good at that stuff. Took all 3 down, was arguably finished against Jailton Turner, but then Jailton Turner with the low IQ move of just trying to go for a walk away, doesn't finish Moicano. Moicano recovers in the second round, takes him down, finishes on the ground. Beneil Dariush is not Jailton Dumb Turner. He just isn't. We saw what he did against Gamrot. We saw that he was able to stuff his takedowns, hold him down, and keep him down for the most part. Big Money Moicano, I think, is going to struggle with taking down Beneil Dariush. I really, really do believe that, because we've seen Beneil Dariush stuff the wrestling of a much better grappler, in my opinion, Gamrot, who is more scramble heavy and more chains together his takedowns, while Moicano can sometimes power through. The fact that Moicano is actually the same age as Beneil Dariush is another factor. Beneil Dariush just looks like he's 50. The striking on the feet of Beneil Dariush is extremely underrated in my opinion. I get that Drew Dober's a good striker, Jailton Turner's a good striker, Benoit, good striker, but Dariush has that ability of power and technique as well as just being dangerous on the feet. I think we saw what Moicano did against Rafael Dos Anjos. He got pieced up on the feet when he couldn't just take him down. Maybe this is a new Moicano. This is the Dagestani Moicano. The pick here will be Beneil Dariush to win this fight though. I think he stuffs his takedown, controls him on the ground, and on the feet I think he just does better than Moicano does. The pick is Big Beneil Dariush. Oh, alhamdulillah. Anyway, Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill. I made a video on this, so let's be quick with this one. Yuri is more skilled than he's been given credit for. I've seen the clips of him ducking his head into a body shot from Alex Pereira. I get it. It's a slow IQ move. Maybe he thought he was going for a jab. Ducks his hand low. Maybe goes for a takedown. Gets caught. It is what it is, right? He does do weird things like that. He is very skillful with his head movement. Sometimes, you know, I get it. Right, I think he's skillful, but maybe his fight IQ isn't quite there, even though I think his fight IQ is even there. I just think he just lost to a better man in Alex Pereira. I think he has the fight IQ, he knows what to do, but then sometimes he's just like, I'm a martial artist, I'm a warrior, let's swing. And that's where, I guess that is indicative of his IQ, that it's low. But Jamal Hill, a fat middleweight, I mean, the guy has a big belly on him every single time he's out there for a fight. Could he make middleweight? Yes. He's big, don't get me wrong, he's big and powerful, has KO power, has a touch of death. He has all of that stuff, but I just think Yuri Prochazka works the angles better. I don't think he's going to stop moving. I think he'll stay close to the hip of Jamal Hill, maybe try to center off so Jamal Hill doesn't have a straight line 1-2 down the middle on Yuri Prochazka, which is where a lot of his power is generated from. If he stays close to Jamal Hill can't, you know, Jamal Hill doesn't have that short range power that Pereira has. Pereira has the power to close gaps like this with some power punches. I think Jamal Hill really needs that full distance to be able to get his power punches off. I will be picking Yuri Prochazka to win this fight. I think he's better than Jamal Hill. I think he can mix in the takedowns. I know Glover Teixeira couldn't take down Jamal Hill. I get it. But Santos couldn't. Santos was more proactive on the feet. Like, he was more active on the feet, while Glover was going for a more technical approach of just at a distance. Don't do that. Yuri Prochazka is way, way more frenetic than Glover Teixeira. I think he gets it done against Jamal Hill. I think it will be by decision. But so far, none of Yuri Prohaska's fights have gone to the decision. So for that reason, I'm going to say Yuri Prohaska by KO in the 3rd round. 250, my biggest bet of the card, going on Yuri Big Prochaska. Next up, Umar Nurmagomedov versus Merab Dvalishvili. Now, the pick is going to be revealed in a second. I've made a video on this. Watch the video. Merab is coming to dictate the pace. He does that in every single fight. He comes into the fight. He's like, you know what? You, me, mono, we mono. You, me, plus my wrestling. You, me, my head, your crotch. You, me, wrestling. 50-45 decision. You, me, no significant damage. It's usually what Merab will do. I don't know why I went down that road, but I just did. I'm gonna say what I want to say, alright? Dad? Anyway, I don't know why I'm still saying stuff like this. I'll never stop. Umar Nurmagomedov can dictate the pace of the fight. He is able to control the tempo of the takedowns that Merab Dvalishvili can throw his way. The volume of the Merab is the problem here. The cardio, the volume, the fact that they're always coming, the fact that they're always around about the same level of threat of getting taken down throughout a fight. It's never like later in the fight, Merab is just like hanging on to you for ages, like trying to gasp his breath, and then he's like, oh, one final push for a takedown, double leg. I didn't get it. That doesn't happen. Merab will always push the same level of pace. Umar Nurmagomedov, you know, just a better, just not a better wrestler. I'm actually not going to say a better wrestler, but he doesn't, I don't know, his cardio is untested right now. But he looked fine against Sandhagen, and Sandhagen was actually the one that was actually trying to slow down in the 4th and the 5th round when Nurmagomedov took over completely. Good on Umar. I think Umar should be able to win this fight, though. He'll just win this fight. That's it. He'll win. And the fact that he can dictate where the fight goes with his striking, the fact that he can dictate the pace, that's what Merab wants to do, wants to dictate the pace of the fight, he wants to know where the fight goes and all that good stuff. For those reasons, I'm going to go with Umar Nurmagomedov. He dictates the pace. There's more pathways for him to win. Like the striking, you can see him potentially KOing Merab. You can see him potentially catching him with a submission. You can potentially see him out grappling Merab and ending up on top position to win a couple of rounds here and there. Merab, it's very much a decision. There's not that much power in his hands. There's not that much submission threat from Merab, in my opinion. All of a sudden, watch him submit Umar now. But it's just, the pathway is so one-dimensional, and it works. I've picked him to beat Cejudo. I've picked him to beat... I actually didn't pick him to beat Petr Yan, believe it or not. I did pick him to beat Cejudo. I did pick him to beat Aldo. I did pick him to beat Marlon Moraes. With those fighters, you can see him holding them against the cage. I can see it. Jose Aldo is a great takedown defender, no doubt about it, but he can be held against the cage. Umar can't just be held against the cage. He has great anti-wrestling. He can get on top of you by reversing some positions. I just think there's more pathways to victory for Umar, and that is the second leg of my parlay. Parlayed in with Jailton Almeida, $125. Main event time! Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan. Now again, watch the video. I've made a video on this fight. Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan will be going toe to toe, to blow to blow. No, Diddy. Here's what's gonna happen, right? Islam is the favorite, and I can see why. If in a perfect world, I would pick Islam Makhachev to beat Arman Tsarukyan. But part of me wants Arman to win, and another part of me thinks Arman Tsarukyan is the last super of the lightweight division. You look up and down that entire rankings, after Arman, there's no one. What, Gaethje gets another title shot? Chandler's working his way back to a title shot. He's not working his way back to nothing. Oliveira's working his way back up again. These are guys that have lost to Islam in convincing fashion. Max Holloway, do we really think Max Holloway can beat Islam? I don't think so. Even though Max Holloway has some of the greatest or most underrated takedown defense of all time, in my opinion. Anyway, I think Islam Makhachev is the more dangerous guy, but Arman does have his own wrestling ability. He can reverse and scramble. We've seen him scramble over and over again. Again, a problem with Arman is potentially the cardio, but with Islam Makhachev, if the fight goes all 5, we have seen him slow down. We saw him against okay, listen, he didn't slow down against Poirier, but later on, he wasn't as dangerous as he was in the earlier rounds. Like in the first round, he immediately takes down Poirier, doesn't take down Poirier again. Poirier's stuffing the takedowns. If Arman gets taken down in the first round, cool, just survive. And then what? He starts countering. He has the striking. I think Arman and Islam are actually quite evenly matched when it comes to striking. Obviously, Islam has gotten KOs in recent times, but that's a lot of that is to do with the fact that he can threaten the wrestling. And the fact that Arman realistically has a pathway where he can get on top of Islam by reversing him, go toe-to-toe with him on the feet. I think all those things are a factor in this entire fight. And I would be going with Arman Tsarukyan in this fight just because I think, listen, if everything is even, you would just pick the guy with the bigger strength and the bigger, you know, that's more proven like Islam is. But in this fight, I really think Arman has put together a really strong streak ever since his loss to Gamrot, where he did, you know, in the later rounds lose the fight. And that is concerning. Even now it's concerning. I'm hoping he's worked on it. He hasn't had too many 5-round fights. That's the only one, right? And he lost it. Am I changing my own mind? I don't know. I did go with Arman. Part of it was that he was an underdog. I get it. But part of it was also, I can just see his pathway to victory so easily. Like, the scrambles are there. And Islam, after the first round, like, I think he conserves his energy. It's not just the fact, oh, he just has more fun striking. He genuinely might be too tired to go for takedowns later on in the fight. Because he was shooting them against Poirier, but just wasn't getting him. I think Arman can get this done. I think the striking is quite even. I think he's a shorter dude. I know Arman's a shorter dude, but in recent times, he just looked amazing. Like, the KO of Beneil Dariush, he just ducked his head low. He put the knee up. Oliveira, a better striker than Beneil Dariush, better jiu-jitsu. Eventually got down Arman Tsarukyan. Arman got caught in the guillotine, got out. Like, his jiu-jitsu is really good. Towards the end of that fight, was dead bodying himself to not get submitted with the Das choke that Oliveira was locking in. I'm just liking what I'm seeing from Arman Tsarukyan. And before that, he was looking dominant. The wrestling, remember, the first fight, they were quite evenly matched. It was the third round when Islam completely took over, when Arman gasped. That was on short notice. Let's see how this fight goes. Anyway, that's the entire video. The pick is going to be Arman Tsarukyan 100. In total, $1,000. I don't actually think it's 1,000. I think by the end of it, it ended up being... I think it only ended up being like $900. But whatever, 1,000 sounds better. $1,000 on this card. My lighting is messed up. And you know where to put your money. Like, share, and subscribe. But don't share, that's weird. Hit the notification bell. Subscribe. 197 subscribers. I really want to get to 200. Really, really, really. So just hit the subscribe button as well. You have nothing to lose there. I'll see you guys next time.